Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazell, and this is Dev Dive, a show where I get a chance to talk to interesting game developers about their games. And today, I am joined by Heather Flowers to talk about Unfair Flips, easily and by far the simplest on a mechanical level game I've ever done an interview about. And it's frankly a little challenging for me to come up with questions about it, but we have a very interesting story to go through today about a simple game about flipping a coin. And Heather, as soon as I heard about this game, I'm like, I have to know. I have to go to the source. I have to ask. And I sent you an email before I'd even played the game. And now here we are just a couple days later, and very shortly after the release of your game to talk about it. Thank you very much for joining me on such short notice.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
I'm interested to talk to you, specifically because the moment we got on this call, you said that this game, as deceptively simple as it is, has a philosophy behind it. And I'm very excited to dive into that. But first, I want to get a little bit of context of who you are as a game developer, because this is, for me, the first of your games that I had heard of or played. And so just for the audience and just for this to be a little bit more well-rounded, you want to talk a little bit about your history with video games and getting into making games yourself?
Totally. So I have been an independent game developer for almost, Jesus Christ, 10 years at this point. The titles that I'm best known for are for working on, in chronological order, Gendirect, Extreme Meat Punks Forever, the Extreme Meat Punks Forever tabletop game, Snake Farm, Fish Fear Me, and now Unfair Flips.
Yeah, so you got a little lineup there, but what inspired you to get into making games?
It's something that I have always wanted to do, just like on a very primal level, ever since I realized that games were things that were made by human beings that didn't just come out of the void. You know, age 13 or 14, I remember having two very strong formative experiences. First of which was playing Portal with a commentary on for the first time and realizing like, oh, there are creative decisions happening here and there is like thought that is being put into every single element of this. And the other was I played a lot of Flash games as a kid, discovering the blog of Brad Bourne, the person who made Fancy Pants Adventures.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And,
I remember that game.
you know, reading through his dev post about making Fancy Pants Adventures 3 and realizing this is a single person making an entire world. And I wanted to do that so very badly.
Yeah. So what were some of those first projects you worked on? Like, do you remember the first game you tried to make? And was it one of the ones that came out?
The first few games that I tried to make, I was a child and failed dramatically.
Sure.
I think I did a game jam in 2014. I cannot tell you the name of the game. It was like a very shitty knockoff rhythm game. And from there, I went to school for game dev. I, participated in game jams. I sort of grew my craft over the next few years. The game that most people will at least ping having maybe heard at some point in their lives is Extreme Meat Punks Forever, which was a sort of visual novel neck brawler about gay disasters beating up neo-Nazis and giant robots.
What's a neck brawler?
Meat. Oh, mech brawler.
I heard neck brawler. I had no idea what
that might have been a flub on my part. And that was sort of the first game that sort of put me in the public eye for a certain subset of the internet. Yeah, since then, I've just been, experimenting with various genres, playing around with the forum. And then we reach Unfair Flips, which is the topic of this interview.
Perfect, like full circle guiding me into my next question, which is, of course, when did you start working on Unfair Flips? Is this a short development cycle, comparatively long? Like, what's that timeline like? And what was that first idea that you remember having that led you to creating this game?
So I first came up with Unfair Flips when I was on a walk one day. I was just sort of idly walking by and thinking to myself, what if there was a coin that you could flip? What if that was it? What if it's just a coin?
I got great news for you. You can do that in the real world as well.
Yeah. But it turns out people really pay attention if you make it a video game.
That's true. Yeah. Like no one would watch a 3-hour YouTube video of someone just flipping a actual coin and then like having to set it back up on their finger and flipping it again. That wouldn't do anything. But as soon as you add that you can play this game on Steam. That. Oh, am I wrong?
You are wrong, actually.
Oh, God, okay.
One of the original inspirations for this game was called The Coin Stream by Tom Walker, who's this Australian comedian who made a stream where he decided to just flip a coin until he got 10 heads in a row. And also, if he ever got 10 tails in a row, it would increase the number of heads that he had to get by 1.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Wow. When was that?
That was a few years ago. I want to say like 2021, something like that. But the idea is just sort of stuck in my head as like a prime example of the entertainment value of watching somebody else perform masochism. So I got home and I made this very simple prototype in about an hour, maybe 2 hours. And like, it's a coin, you flip it, there's a little ticker that says whether you got heads or tails. And that's pretty much it. And I posted a GIF of this on Blue Sky and on Tumblr. And within a few hours, it had reached like 1,000 likes or something like that.
When was it that you made that quick
God, like a
version?
month or two ago.
Oh, okay.
I was working on this project in between working on several other much larger projects, so this was just sort of my way of blowing off a little steam. It has since become the most successful of any of those projects, which is hilarious.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, I did the math. I spent less than 40 hours making this entire game.
In terms of active development time.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a new record. You've set a new low score, but in the best way possible.
Yeah, I've definitely reached a new low with this game. I sent it to some friends, just sort of saying like, is this anything? And I expected some people to say, like, okay, I get the joke, or this is kind of weird, or I don't get it. What happened instead is every single person I sent it to said there needs to be more of this.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I want to play this more. So I commissioned an artist friend of mine, Gwendolyn Marchant, who I've known for quite a while and have worked with on other projects before. And basically said like, okay, here's a game with like 4 assets in it. Can you draw like a coin and a table and like a background? And that's pretty much the entire game. And she did go above and beyond. Like, I do think the game looks really good, especially considering the programmer art that had been in there before. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I got some suggestions from friends. I got a sound effect from Sarashu, who's better known for doing some of the music for Steven Universe.
Oh, wow, cool.
Who's a friend of mine, so he just sort of contributed a sound effect.
Yeah.
One sound effect.
Which one is it?
When you flip the coin for the 9th time and it's all heads, it does like a very special like ding, 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 ding.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
To signify that you're about to get an ending or you're about to flub it and go back to 0. And so that's what he did.
Cool, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's the entire game on a mechanical level. The amount of work that was put into it is very small. I think what's more interesting is the philosophy behind it.
Yes, and that was the next thing I was going to ask about. You sort of proposed the depth of this conversation coming from a philosophy that went into why you designed this game this way. Or I don't know the exact story, but what is it, do you think, that makes this game so special, and what is that philosophy?
So I have started writing a manifesto about this game and the response to it because the response has been incredibly outsized. It's I've started calling it coin madness, just the response that the average person has to this game is a sort of deep, strange obsession. That does sort of rise for a bit and then wane for a bit. It's not like people are still stuck at their coins flipping it 24/7. Although there is somebody who's made a bot that's flipping a coin 24/7 on Twitch right now.
Really?
I saw that this morning.
How long has it been going for?
I think like 6 days.
Okay, all right. And they must have finished the game. Or is it?
No, they're doing it at 20% heads.
Okay, all right. Oh, wow.
There's a 1 in 10 million chance to get it.
Interesting. Okay. So coin madness. Delve into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, so coin madness to me is the glitch in human nature that deals with probability. Namely, it's sort of the gambling response of people will continuously do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result if they are shown that a different result is possible. Some might call this the definition of insanity. So, in a sense, I have made a game that makes people insane.
I like that.
Which I think is sort of fascinating. Like, I call it an evil game because I think you're not gambling with money. You're gambling with time. You are saying, I am going to spend the next hour of my life meditating on this feeling within me and having that dopamine button pushed of, oh shit, I got heads. Oh no, I got another one. Oh hell yeah, I got another one. And then tails.
This idea of obsession of the human fascination with probability. Is this something that you were thinking about while making the game, or is it something that you kind of realized as you saw the reaction to it?
It's something that I thought about while making the game. There's sort of monologues within the game that are sort of me
That is fair.
talking
Yeah.
through this. Okay, here's my philosophical agenda with this game. I have come to see the existence of gambling in video games as a sort of sawdust in milk. It's the metaphor that I've been using. Like, it is something that makes a game cheaper to make, it makes it longer to complete, and it doesn't noticeably affect the flavor. But it does affect the nutrition.
Sure. Huh.
Like, I think over the past decade, we have seen the slow shift of the definition of, like, genre that is roguelikes from a very specific, like, okay, here is a procedural world that you are going to make some decisions in, and those decisions are going to be hard because, like, the game is uncaring in the way that it is created. To specifically, here is a game where you pick 3 things, and then it'll tell you to pick another of 3 things, and then, whoops, your number goes up because you picked the right 3 things. And that just doesn't sit right with me. There are many games in the genre that I absolutely love, don't get me wrong. Like, I have always loved the genre, and I will always continue to love the genre even as it changes. But I do think one of the things that I wanted to express in this game is how little that part actually improves somebody's experience. If there's sawdust in milk, what I've done is I've taken a bag of nothing but sawdust, labeled it sawdust, and put it in the milk aisle. And what I found is that people see that, read the label, think that sounds delicious, and just start chugging it dry.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So when you bring up the changes in the roguelike genre over the past whatever amount of years, is that a genre that you would consider Unfair Flips a part of in some way, or an inspiration for it? How does it sort of, or genre-wise, what does Unfair Flips kind of fit into, or is the answer nothing?
So literally, it is an incremental gambling clicker. Metaphorically, I have seen many people calling it a roguelike, and it turns me into the Joker every time. And I think it's entirely because there's a shop where you can buy things in it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing that, and like, that's true of Zelda too. Like, there are so many games that have shops that you can buy things in them.
Yeah, though the Unfair Flips shop, I think maybe the reason why people would draw that comparison versus games where you have like item shops is it's mostly about percentage increases. You know, it's much more comparable to like do 20% extra damage to undead enemies.
Yeah.
Psychologically, I guess. Where like you're not really noticing it. Though in Unfair Flips, you make it very obvious. You know, you have the percent of heads chance. You've got the tracking of like your history of getting heads or tails. So I think it takes the idea of do 20% extra damage to undead enemies and like makes that the like visual part of the game that you can realize it's happening.
Yeah, which I do think is the other interesting thing about this game is total honesty. Like, I told myself in the very beginning, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it 100%. Like, at no point am I ever going to fudge the odds. At no point am I ever going to force a flip to be heads or tails. And at no point am I going to lie to the player about what's going on. I'm going to present every piece of the odds as honestly as possible.
The honesty and sort of transparency about this is what the game is. I think there's a line almost to that effect in the game. Like, this is the entire game.
Yeah.
That's the moment of subversion, I think. And I've been thinking about this as I've been preparing for this interview, is a game like this that is at face value so simple. There's a lot of people, I think, and I think myself included, where expectation-wise you go into a game and you expect there to be a complication and a surprise at some point. You know, I think of the game Frog Fractions. It's a rip a missile command, but there is then this very crazy, and if you haven't played the game, I won't spoil it, but very crazy subversive narrative that goes on underneath that. And I expected there to be, in some way, a subversion in Unfair Flips. But then the subversion is that there is no subversion, and the game tells you there's no subversion. The odds are exactly what they are. This is the game. And so what do you think about that, of like the idea of subverting game expectations in the modern day, where subversion is the expectation, and you've somehow inverted that so that you surprise them by not subverting their expectations.
So I have two thoughts about that. The first is, I think in order to make a game like this that succeeds, you have to go in with total honesty. Like, I have that "this is the entire game" line in the trailer, specifically so that people don't buy the game expecting something else. But I think the other thing is, even with that honesty, people will lie to themselves.
Definitely.
Like, I have gotten some very funny negative reviews from people who straight up refuse to believe that the odds are what the game is telling them they are.
Yeah.
Like, I think my favorite one was somebody talking about how the game lies to you. There's no way that the number of heads is the right number of heads. This is supposed to be a game based on luck and chance, but instead it's rigged.
Sure. Did you see how many hours that person had in it?
I think 2.
Oh, come on. You can finish the game in 2 hours. I finished it in 50 minutes. Or I got an ending.
Yeah, but I just think it's so interesting that people will refuse to believe that they can have good or bad luck. Because they expect to be delivered exactly the average, exactly within a sample size, even though
that's not
samples
how
can
probability
be curated.
works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so with that probability and the transparency, how was it that you came up with the idea of being transparent within the game itself? Because I think the moment where I felt there was something unique or special going on is when in the heads and tails log counter that sits in the middle of your screen, text starts coming up, and it's kind of this, well, first the credits play within the bounds of the UI, which I think is awesome, and then like the tutorial for the game starts like scrolling through the text as you're flipping heads and tails. And so how did you come up with the idea of including the credits and tutorial text and like narrative of the game within the flip counter in the UI?
Pure laziness. I didn't want to make another page for credits. I didn't want to make another page for a tutorial. I didn't want to make a page for my philosophy. So I decided, okay.
That would have made this game take 41 hours to make.
Exactly. I got other shit to do. The extent to which I put as little effort into this game as possible was I straight up started a new programming practice for this game that I decided to start calling shithead programming, which is just, as soon as I come up with an idea, I write it in the first way that I think of it. And like, if problems come up later, then I will maybe fix them. And it's a very fast way to make something very small. Like, normally I'm much more intentional in the way that I program things because I'm working with much larger projects that, have much bigger problems with tech debt. Where, like, if I'm working on something for 5 months and suddenly I need to change something fundamental, I need to make sure that that fundamental thing can be changed within a day or two. But this one, I mean, it took a week to make. I can remake it if I could remake the entire game in a week if I really needed to.
Yeah, and probably better because you know what you're doing this time.
Yeah, exactly. And like, the things the speedrunning community has been doing with this game are fascinating to me, and a lot of that is because of those little bits of cruft that are left in there.
Okay, well, dive into that a little bit. I mean, I haven't looked into speedrunning of this game. I mean, I remember when I was playing it, I was thinking of like, what would it be like to speedrun this, but what has that sort of journey been like, even in just a short period of time, of speedrunners and the tech and what you can do with the game? I'm not even sure.
So there have been multiple advances in speedrunning tech for this game over the past couple weeks. I think some of my favorites
You sound insane just saying that. It's a one-button game.
It's a coin. You flip it. But people have figured out that the game has one save file in it, which means that hypothetically, if you open up multiple copies of the game, all of them will start with the same streak because they're all loading from that one save file.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
But when you flip the coin, it writes to the save file. So what you can do is you can like open up 10 different copies of the game, flip the coin in all of them, just stop when one of them hits heads, close all the other copies of the game, reopen the new copies, and then those start with the new streak that you've just created, and then push that forward from there. The newest tech, this is only a day or two old, this has resulted in a speedrun that is less than a minute long, involves predicting how the coin is going to fall based on the number of half rotations it makes in midair.
Is that intentionally designed that way, of the flips indicating things? All right.
Yeah, the coin flip is set up so that if the coin lands opposite to the previous flip, it will land heads down, like it will land upside down. Otherwise, it will land right side up. Which is a tiny mechanic that I never thought anybody would ever think twice about, and now it's a cornerstone of the speedrunning, community. And I just think this whole situation is fascinating. Like, it's a coin. It's a coin. You flip it.
How do you think the desire to have a speed run for this game interacts with that coin madness philosophy psychology thing you were mentioning earlier?
Well, I think a lot of people are doing it because they think it's really funny. Like,
It is.
I think
They're right.
it's objectively a funny game to
Yeah,
speedrun.
yeah.
It's like those people that speedrun Freddy Fish or something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, or Desert Bus.
Yeah, exactly. Where part of it is just the inherent comedy of going for something so ridiculous. Like, there's also the pure part of the speedrunning community, which is the glitchless version, where there's none of this multi-instant stuff, and it's just people grinding for hours and hours to try and get the fastest coin flip they can, which is also just amazing to me. It's wild to observe in action.
Yeah. No, I think it's really cool that a response to this game has grown so quickly. It's only been out for less than 2 weeks, around a week, something like that.
About 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and it's already seen quite big response. And for me, and the way that I came across it, was that this game got picked up by a couple of pretty big streamers, and that sort of helped to grow the community even quicker. What were your expectations like before launching the game in terms of what the reception would be? And then talk through that, like, over the course of a couple days, what it was like seeing it, I mean, certainly blow past your expectations.
So I think my expectations going in, like, I had seen what this game does to people firsthand. Like, I've put this game in front of people who say, I hate this idea. I think this is stupid. I think it's going to be bad. And then 5 minutes later, they're like, don't pull me away. Don't pull me away. Don't pull me away. I just got to flip it again. So I knew that if it got traction, it had a chance of getting big. I had no idea that it would get this big. I mean, I think, like many independent developers, I have a sort of set of career goals for things that I want to see reflected in the world based off my work. And like, one of those obviously is get Northernlion to play one of my games. I think that's a fairly common one. Another one
Yeah.
is to get fan fiction of one of my games on AO3. Both of those have been succeeded by the coin flip game.
Well, sometimes
People are
success
writing
comes from the
coin
weirdest
fanfic.
place. Oh my god. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that this game took off because, I mean, like, to be perfectly frank, it's money in my pocket at a time when, like, money is useful in my life. Also, like, it's fascinating that this is the thing that finally takes off after years of work.
Do you remember, like, where you were? I mean, I guess it wasn't that long ago. Where you were when you found out Northernlion is streaming my game. I've achieved one of the great things for my game dev career.
I mean, I was at my desk, I'm pretty sure, and I didn't even, like, see a stream notification. What happened was I went to check my statistics on the game to see, like, are people paying attention to it? Are the wish list going up or whatever? And I noticed this huge spike about 30 minutes ago. And I said, oh no. And I went to Twitch and just there he was right there, front and center. And then the text started pouring in from all sorts of people like, hey, he's playing your game. Hey, this wild thing is happening. Hey, look at this thing that he said about your game. And like, I cannot be happier about how that went. Like, I was so jazzed about it.
Yeah. How has that spike impacted or stayed over the course of the following days?
It has been a very long tail so far. Like, the amount of attention that people paid on day 1 of the game is roughly equivalent to the amount of attention people paid on day 5, which was when Northernlion started playing it. And that attention has slowly shifted, but it is still one of the most consistent post-launch amounts of growth that I've ever seen.
Cool. Are you planning or thinking about anything of how this success of this game impacts your future game development, or continuing to maybe support this game, or what's that sort of success like, and how's it impacted your thought process?
I mean, absolutely it has. Like, the way that I work every time is the funds from one game funds the next. This gives me a very good standpoint for what I've been planning on working on next, because I have a number of plans. And yeah, I'm tremendously excited for whatever does happen next. I've been doing research in all sorts of topics for my next few projects. And I don't have anything that I'm ready to announce yet, but
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about it.
I like what you're saying about this game changing the way you're thinking about the next games that you're going to make. And I'm curious what you see as what you bring to the games industry that maybe other people aren't. Like, what makes your game special? What makes your game design philosophy special? And where do you think you can kind of bring a new energy to the games industry?
That's a good question. I think the number one thing that people say about my games is that they have a sicko energy to them. That I make games for freaks and then freaks play those games. And this works because I am also a sicko. Like, I have also spent hours upon hours flipping that dang coin.
You too have succumbed to coin madness.
I have succumbed to coin madness, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think about that? That, you know, you're as lizard brain mental as like the rest of us. Like, if you see coin madness as this like interesting look into psychology, how is it sort of reflected on yourself?
I mean, I am not immune to propaganda. I am not immune to the gambling instinct. I also have experienced this, like, here's a button that you press it and you gain some excitement and you gain some, like, idea that you are doing something fulfilling, even though I'm not. I'm flipping a coin. And so now I've been going to other games in my library and I feel it when that same button is pressed. And I just think to myself, am I doing something that enriches me, or am I flipping that dang coin? And I think this is really making me think about my own creative philosophy and what I want to be making next. Because, like, if randomness as a general function has this effect on people, has this effect on me, is that something that I want to be playing with? Because it feels almost like playing with fire.
Sure. Yeah. Playing with sawdust.
Yeah, playing with sawdust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how your future games that you do end up releasing build or subvert that. Because I do think that's something for people to think about. Because the games industry is at a point where we've seen the impact, positive and negative, on the way that money can be spent on things and the way it can be exploited and the way that people's psychology can be exploited. And Unfair Flips is an interesting, but also low impact, not in terms of the amount of people that it's reached or anything, but low impact in terms of spending $2 on this game is not only one of the cheaper games you can buy, but also a surprisingly good way to like satiate your gambling desires, because it's $2 and that's it. There's no microtransactions. There's not like, there's a few endings you can get, but like there's not a grind to search for it, which definitely happens in a lot of other games that are more exploitative of the psychology process. Was there ever a point in making this game where you thought maybe it could be something more, or that you wanted to add something more than just the strict, very simple version that we ended up getting?
So I have had many people give me suggestions before launch and after launch about things that they want to see in the game, like a version where you flip tails, or a version where you get New Game Plus, or for a while I was entertaining the idea of New Game Minus, which just makes the game 5% harder every time you win.
Sure.
I see the look of concern on your face. You are correct.
Yeah. Huh. That is really funny, though.
It's really funny.
It's really funny. Oh, it'd be so... It'd be worth doing just for the bit.
Yeah, like, I'm kind of... like, I've been considering what I'm doing for this game for April Fools. I have ideas. I will not be sharing those ideas yet because I'm probably going to do them. But I wanted this game to remain simple, because the simpler it is, the purer the idea that it is presenting is. And, like, I was never going to add microtransactions or anything like that to this game. First off, because I think that would turn it from funny evil to actual evil. because then I've literally made a slot machine.
Yeah. Well, watch an ad to get another chance.
Yeah, exactly. $5 for another 100 flips.
Oh my
You got
God.
this. You got this. You got this.
Well, that's actually something that's very interesting. I've talked to a few developers of games that do impact people psychologically like this. I talked to the developer Dan Diorio, who made Luck Be a Landlord, and he talked about how his game has been copied by other people, and while his game doesn't have any microtransactions in it, they make another version of the game with microtransactions. And we don't know yet because your game's only been out for a few days ostensibly, but it's very possible that someone rips off this game and makes it that version. Have you thought about that as something that might happen?
I mean, people have already been making fan games, which I think is kind of delightful in and of
Really?
itself because none of them have had microtransactions in them so far. I think my current pair of favorites is Automatic Flips, which plays the entire game for you with one flip per frame. So the entire game lasts like 17 seconds.
Wow.
Which I think is just hilarious. And then Random Walk, which is sort of like the basic concept of unfair flips, except you're trying to guide a goblin along a little path. And if you essentially flip tails, what happens is the goblin gets confused and walks off the path and you have to start again. So I think that's very fun. Both of those are delightful to me that they exist. And I think that is one of the bonuses of having made such a tiny game, that people can hack the idea and like change it a little bit and make something completely new. When it comes to people stealing this idea and adding monetization into it, there's nothing stopping people from doing that, but there isn't anything that was stopping people from doing that before. It's a coin. You flip it.
The thing that would be stopping people before is that it was the idea doesn't necessarily seem like something that people would go for. I mean, if you told me 2 months ago that this is an idea that you're trying, having at that time not played it myself, I'd probably be like, I don't know if people will go for that. I think that might be like the thought process of something so simple of like, maybe it's too simple. But now there's the precedence, right? We have the example that...
Have I opened up a dam?
The Pandora's box has been opened of, maybe this will make a bunch of fun, interesting spin-off games that are inspired by this. Maybe it'll become something kind of corrupted and dark. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's entirely out of my hands. I hope that people don't do that. That sounds like awful. But I also hope that the people who see unfair flips and recognize it as a satire, who recognize it as an experiment in probability, will see a version of it that asks for real money and say, why would I want this?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if the answer is, if you hit 10 heads in a row, you like 10x your money, then people are going to do it.
Oh, God. The idea of it giving money back is where it becomes... Oh.
Well, you said that it is a satire, and I'm curious if there are any games that you feel that this is a satire of. Are there incremental games, clicker games, roguelikes that you take as inspiration that this game is satirizing in some way?
I mean, I think it's the entire genre, right? Like, I'm not going to name any specific names because I don't want to, like, single out a specific developer as like, hey, you're doing it wrong. Because I don't think they are. I think that, like, people who make these kinds of gambling games are reacting naturally to, like, market pressures. Like, people see, oh, Balatro made $1 billion. They see, like, it's very easy to make your own version of this kind of game, and you are more than likely to get your money back or more. Because a lot of independent game developers are just people trying to continue to make rent, and I can't really begrudge any one person for doing this kind of stuff. Like, I'm benefiting from the system too. I made a game where you flip the coin and people are buying it, and that is going to continue paying my rent for the foreseeable future. So I can't really point at any one person and say, you are the reason I'm doing this, because it's the entire industry. It's the entire set of incentives that allows for this kind of gambling game to exist. And I wish it didn't, to be honest. Like, I think it would be better if people didn't have this ability to be manipulated by such a simple thing. Like, you can make a new coin game in about 5 hours if you're really trying. And it's an insane return on investment if you do. I'm looking at my next projects and what I'm planning on doing after this, and I'm wondering, do I want to include randomness at all? Like, what if it's a game that's completely deterministic? Or do I go the other way and make something that's completely random, because clearly randomness is what people are asking for?
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta make fair flips where it gets you heads every time.
So true.
There's an April Fool's idea. Fair flips.
My God. Yeah, the one that I'm actually planning is skill-based mode.
Okay, all right. I don't even want to know what that means.
It's exactly the same game, except whenever you flub a head streak, it says this is your fault.
That's funny. That's very funny. So what about the multiple endings in the game? Where did that sort of come out in development? The idea of having even finishing the game have this element of chance to it.
Yeah, so that's something that I sort of figured out while I was talking with my artist, Gwendolyn. I thought it would be funny if, like, when you get to the end, there's a punchline, and the majority of those punchlines are very cruel and ways that you don't actually get that 10th heads. They count as endings. Like, they give you achievements like the rest. But I thought it would be funny to give players a reason to keep flipping that dang coin. But also, it does delete your save, so you do have to start over from scratch every time, because, again, that's the crueler thing to do, which means it's the funnier thing to do. Some of the endings are tributes to various things. I believe Your Coin Explode is originally a Homestar Runner reference. The explosion visual in that one is very much inspired by the explosion gags in Deltarune. And, of course, the Get Egg Bugged ending is a reference to defunct social media website Co-Host, which is the only good social media website that ever existed, and nobody has ever done it like that again, and nobody ever will.
Sure. I think the ending that I got was the one where your coin explodes. And I got it on my first time flipping a 10th head. Like, when I hit my 9, and then I flipped it, and the coin exploded, and I was very confused. I was streaming it at the time, and so one of my friends who was watching was like, "Oh no, you got lucky that happened on your first try." But I thought I was like, "Do I get to flip the 10th head? Like, what's going on here?" It was a confusing moment for me.
Yeah, I think it's an exercise in dissatisfaction. You put in all this work, so why don't you get to experience your reward? Well, because it's not work that you've been doing. You've been at a slot machine. Here's another slot machine. You get one pull.
Yeah. What is the mask that the person in the back is wearing?
Oh, so this is actually a sort of deep cut reference to the games Snake Farm and Fish Fear Me, where for the past couple games that I've made, every one of them has had this, like, weird gray guy wearing a mongoose mask. So, like, sort of the first one that had this was Goose in Snake Farm, who's the shopkeeper. And then I decided, okay, well, in Fish Fear Me, we're going to have his cousin Gull as the shopkeeper, who's like a fishmonger. And then the one in Unfair Flips is Gar. And so it's sort of become like a little bit of an artist signature for me, of people see that and they know that it's one of my games even before they know that I made it. I've had people in the comments specifically saying, "Oh, that's Goose. I know him." Which I think is really funny to me. And so I'm going to keep putting him in things, because it's always funny to see people reacting to a character who's, like, I don't know, he's kind of a weirdo. I like him.
Yeah. Well, so it's the same character, or it's 3 different characters?
It's 3 different characters who all look identical and who have no differentiating features. Well, that's not true. Gull wears an eye patch. Like, the lore of the world of all of this is that it's the year 50,000 and things have gotten really weird. Humanity is no longer around anymore. It's mostly just these creatures with gray skin and mongoose masks who are mostly kind of bored. Like, they've sort of solved civilization at this point, and so all that's left is for them to watch other beings do these monotonous tasks, like farm snakes or catch fish or flip coins. And I think they enjoy it. I think they enjoy hating it. in my mind, it's sort of a self-insert of me watching the player and sort of, I have a very complicated relationship with my players, as I'm sure you've noticed at this point. Like, I want to make them suffer. And often the way that I end up doing that is in a way that turns out to be fun for them, because people like being met with challenges, people like playing in these kind of weird spaces, people like flipping the coin. It's sort of a self-insert character of me looking at the audience and just saying, all right, what you gonna do? You gonna keep flipping that coin? I'm watching.
Yeah. Yeah, and you sent me a picture of an avatar. That's the same thing?
Yes, that's the same thing. I commissioned an artist to...
It is you, sitting there in the back,
Yeah.
taking a sip of whatever mysterious liquid is in that cup.
It's milk.
Okay, oh, that's right. One of the boxes in the back says milk.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a touch by Gwen, who said, like, just sort of made the decision that the entire thing is going to take place in a non-alcoholic bar.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just really funny to me.
Cool. Yeah, are there any other interesting little notes about the game that people might not know just by playing it?
God, let me think. I mean, there's so little there that we've talked about almost everything. So one tiny mechanic that is in the game is the game can detect how badly you want it and will flip heads more if you want it bad enough. So it's psychic and it's watching, and you better keep flipping because it can tell that you want it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what was the code base for that? You know?
Yeah. Use some Python. The kind of psychic kind of snake. Nah, there's literally like the random function is literally just unity random.range. I tried doing something more sophisticated for a bit, but there's no reason to go above and beyond. It's exactly the same probabilities no matter what, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I think that brings me to the last question, is what was the hardest part about making this game?
The hardest part? That's interesting, because I consider it to be one of the easiest games I've ever made. Like, I could tell you all about the hard design problems that I've solved in other games, like creating the lure system in Fish Fear Me, I think was one of the trickiest design puzzles I've ever worked on. But this didn't have any hard puzzles. This was just coming up with an idea and making it start to finish. That was it.
I mean, for a game as simple as this, I guess that's the answer. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, did Duchamp find it difficult to make Fountain? He turned the toilet upside down and then wrote a signature on it. Maybe it was tricky figuring out what signature to write because it isn't his.
Unfair Flips is your toilet.
It is genuinely. Like, this is my fountain. This is me saying, I took something that shouldn't be in a space and I put it in that space. And I was very honest and obvious about what it was. And then people decided to engage with it how they want to engage with it. The joke that I've continually said is that it's what if Fountain was a slot machine? And the answer is about half the people who see that think it's really funny. And the other half sit down and start playing slots. And both those options are fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've been quite thorough here on this very simple game.
Yeah.
If there's anything else you want to say before we say goodbye, now is your chance.
Yeah, you can keep up with my further exploits at my newsletter, which you can find at http://heather.flowers, alternately at buttondown.com/hthr. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and I hope everyone learned a little something about Unfair Flips, and make sure to go, if you haven't, go play Unfair Flips, give Heather a little bit of your money. I'll leave the link to the Steam store down in the description. Check out your other games as well, and for everyone else, I'll see you next time for another interview.